Dropping the titanium cape, the revolutionary power of imperfect harmony. Have you ever noticed how we're all chasing this mythical state called having it all together? That elusive moment when your career is soaring, your relationships are thriving, your skin is glowing, and somehow you've also managed to meal prep for the entire week. It's exhausting, isn't it? This perpetual pursuit of perfection. I recently had the extraordinary privilege of sitting down with Kit Kit, a visually impaired mural artist whose breathtaking work has transformed urban landscapes across 3 continents. Her art doesn't just challenge our perceptions of ability and creativity, it shatters them completely. Living in a self built, sustainable home in the rainforest, Kit Kit has pioneered tactile painting techniques that have opened doors for differently abled artists worldwide. But it wasn't her impressive resume that left me speechless. It was her revolutionary insight. Perfection is the enemy of harmony. When Kit Kit shared her journey of creating art despite societal expectations about her capabilities, something profound clicked for me. We've been sold this dangerous myth that to be successful, especially as Black women, we need to wear what I call a titanium cape. You know the one. It's that superhuman strength we're expected to display while juggling impossible demands without breaking a sweat. It's the expectation that will show up flawlessly in every room, never revealing the struggle behind the shine. But here's the truth bomb Kit Kit dropped. That cape is heavy, it's exhausting, and most importantly, it's completely unnecessary for living a fulfilled life. The revelation hit me like that moment when you finally take off an uncomfortable bra at the end of a long day. That exhale, that release, that immediate sense of why was I doing this to myself. During our conversation, Kit Kit explained how embracing imperfection actually opened doors to greater creativity in her art. When I stopped trying to paint like sighted artists, she told me, I've discovered my own unique perspective that actually resonated more deeply with people. Her words weren't just about art, they were about life. This insight made me reflect on the podcasting landscape I've been immersed in, particularly platforms created by and for Black women seeking this same liberation from perfection. Take the Breaking Black podcast, hosted by Tina G and her rotating co hosts. When they first launched, they struggled with balancing raw conversations about difficult topics while maintaining an empowering tone. It's that classic dilemma, right? How do you acknowledge the very real challenges we face without reinforcing negative narratives? Their solution was brilliant. By weaving discussions about affirmations and self confidence alongside candid conversations about double standards and pressure, they created space for both acknowledging challenges and celebrating resilience. What began as conversations about love and relationships expanded into deeper explorations of cultural identity and societal expectations. Over 44 episodes later, they've built a community where listeners feel seen and supported in their journey towards self acceptance. One particular episode about the expectations placed on Black women regarding marriage and motherhood sparked hundreds of comments from listeners who finally felt permission to define success on their own terms. I spent 20 years thinking something was wrong with me because I didn't want children, one listener wrote. Hearing other successful Black women talk openly about choosing different paths gave me the language to defend my choices to my family. This is what happens when we create spaces that honor the full spectrum of our experiences, not just the highlight reel, but the deleted scenes too, the messy, unfiltered moments that actually make life worth living. And speaking of messy, Let's talk about burnout culture for a minute. Because if there's one thing Kit emphasized during our conversation, it's that finding harmony requires letting go of the grind mentality that's been glorified in our society. This reminds me of my own podcast journey with the soft girl era, where I've witnessed firsthand how many high achieving Black women are caught in cycles of exhaustion. These are brilliant executives, creatives, and revolutionaries who appear to have it all, but are secretly running on fumes. One guest, a C suite executive at a Fortune 500 company, confessed that she'd been hospitalized twice for exhaustion before realizing something had to change. I was so busy proving I belonged in those rooms that I forgot to ask if those rooms were worthy of me, she said. That statement hit different. It wasn't about working less, it was about working differently with intention and boundaries. Another guest, a renowned activist, shared how she incorporated what she calls pleasure protocols into her daily routine. Revolution without rest, she told me, is just another form of oppression. Let that marinate for a second. These women haven't abandoned their ambitions or lowered their standards. They've simply recognized that sustainable success requires sustainable practices. They've learned to drop the titanium cape while still running the world. Kit echoed this sentiment when she described how moving to the rainforest transformed her relationship with productivity. Nature doesn't rush, she said, yet everything gets accomplished. There's profound wisdom in that observation. But self love and harmony look different for each person. This became abundantly clear when I examined the journey of the Hey Sis, Let's Talk podcast by AIDS Outreach Center. Initially focused on mental and sexual health topics, this podcast recognized that health discussions needed to acknowledge the whole person. By framing conversations within the context of the soft girl era, they created an accessible entry point for deeper discussions about both physical well being and lifestyle aspirations. What's particularly powerful about their approach is how they've normalized conversations that have historically been taboo in many Black communities. They've shown that self care encompasses both addressing health concerns and making lifestyle choices that honor our needs and desires, as Kit so eloquently put it during our interview. Loving yourself isn't a destination, it's a practice that evolves as you evolve. Sometimes that practice looks like setting boundaries with family members who drain your energy. Sometimes it looks like scheduling regular health screenings. Sometimes it looks like dancing in your kitchen at 2 a.m. because your body is craving movement and joy. The common thread in all these examples, from Kit's artistic journey to the podcast creating space for authentic conversation, is the recognition that harmony isn't about perfect balance. It's about intentional imbalance. It's about knowing when to pour into your career and when to pour into yourself, when to stand firm and when to soften, when to speak up and when to rest your voice. This isn't just feel good philosophy, it's practical wisdom with measurable benefits. Research consistently shows that chronic stress impairs cognitive function, weakens immune response, and increases risk for numerous health conditions that disproportionately affect Black women. The pursuit of perfection isn't just exhausting, it's literally killing us. So, what would happen if we collectively decided to drop the titanium cape? What might be possible if we embraced what Kit calls the revolutionary power of imperfect harmony? I believe we'd see more innovation, more authentic connection, and more sustainable success. Because when you're not pouring all your energy into maintaining an impossible image, you have more resources available for creating meaningful impact. But this shift doesn't happen overnight. It begins with small, intentional choices that gradually transform your relationship with yourself and your definition of success. Here's what I propose: conduct what Kit Kit calls a harmony audit of your life. For 1 week, notice when you feel most at peace versus when you feel strained. Document these moments and look for patterns. Then make one small change that increases your harmony, whether that's setting a boundary, creating a new ritual, or letting go of a perfectionistic standard. Remember, this isn't about achieving perfection in your pursuit of harmony. It's about appreciating the journey. As Kit Kit reminded me, the most beautiful art emerges from embracing the unexpected. I want to close with a story Kit Kit shared that fundamentally changed how I view success. She told me about a mural she created in downtown Sao Paulo that was partially washed away during an unexpected rainstorm before it was completed. Initially devastated, she returned the next day to find locals gathering around the half finished piece, discussing how the rain streaked colors created something even more beautiful than what she'd planned. That mural taught me more than any success ever could, she said. It showed me that sometimes our most profound impact comes not from our perfect vision, but from how we respond when that vision dissolves. We stand at a critical crossroads. We can continue wearing our titanium capes, sacrificing our well being on the altar of perfection. Or we can embrace a revolutionary truth. Our power doesn't come from having it all together, it comes from having the courage to be authentically ourselves: messy, magnificent, and unapologetically human. I challenge you today to identify one area of your life where you've been pursuing perfection at the expense of harmony. Write it down. Then write down what harmony might look like instead. Not perfection, not even excellence, just harmony. What would change? How would you feel? What might become possible? The world doesn't need more perfect people, it needs more whole people. People who understand that their worth isn't measured by their productivity. People who recognize that sometimes the most revolutionary act is to simply rest. People who know that dropping the titanium cape doesn't make you less powerful. It reveals the authentic power that's been there all along. So I invite you, as Kit Kit invited me, to drop the titanium cape, to slip into your softness, and to discover that you can still change the world, perhaps even more profoundly, when you're no longer carrying the weight of impossible expectations. Because there is nothing more revolutionary than a person who knows their worth isn't tied to their performance. There is nothing more transformative than a life lived in the embrace of imperfect harmony.